So today we're going to be continuing to look at the alternate future of the United States. Last episode, we focused on the territories as Florida and Hawaii formed empires. But now we're about to receive some change to this map as Kentucky joins ASH. They haven't sided with the Confederacy before, but they are now. And the New England Pact members hold a meeting in Boston. The idea of uniting into a single country is proposed, and now all 6 countries decided to put that up to a referendum. So the first 2 countries to join the Union are Connecticut and Rhode Island. After that is Vermont and New Hampshire. Then Massachusetts. And finally, Maine. And there's really no purpose in the New England Pact anymore. So we can just get rid of this. I did not realize I wasn't actually showing New England uniting. So I'm just going to pretend I did. Now back to the video. So the Confederate States of America has a problem. Of course, they have Carolina and Georgia in their alliance. They can just annex those. Probably. They're still missing Texas, but not Oklahoma, Florida, and Virginia specifically. While Confederate diplomats entered to Texas to discuss a union, Florida is going to go ahead and invade Georgia. And Ash's version of Article 5 is invoked. And you'd think that it would be over for Florida. But right at that moment, Texas, deciding that they don't want to be annexed, declares war on the Confederacy, as does the United States. NATO doesn't get involved because they are the aggressor. So we are going to start with the Confederate and Georgian invasion of the Florida Panhandle. Cutting Florida in two. But Florida, in turn, is prepared for that and swift is prepared for that and launch a spearhead directly into Georgia. Uh, just fix that. Yeah, well, they send a flank to encircle a large number of Georgian troops. And they are slowly either captured or killed until eventually they just surrender. Texas, however, sweeps across Arkansas and Louisiana. It is a bloodbath. Meanwhile, America sweeps across their own front. Got to color that in. Oops. At that point, Kentucky just surrenders to the U.S., and so does Carolina. But American troops still push into Tennessee, while Florida sends another spearhead to capture the entire Florida panhandle. Which is ultimately successful. And by February 1st, 2027, Ashe surrenders. You know what? Yeah, I'll cut the recording now. So, in the peace treaty, North and South Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee were annexed as states in the new U.S. Florida got Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, and Texas got Arkansas and Louisiana. And Ashe was disbanded. Now that the Second Union-Dixie War has concluded, the U.S., Texas, and Florida have entered a Cold War. So the U.S.'s main goal is to take Georgia from Florida, take out Pennsylvania and New England to reform the 13 colonies, plus a couple extra. Florida just wants to take the rest of the South, and Texas just wants as much land as they can get. Now, they could invade Missouri or Kansas, but then they'd have to fight the ATC, which they could realistically take. They could go into Colorado or New Mexico, which would cause Utah, Arizona, Kansas, and Missouri to join in, which could be more interesting. They could go into Florida, and it would be a one-on-one. But the United States might get involved. Or they could attack the United States, which would basically be suicide, since they are a NATO member. Also, New York just declared war on New England. Let me just get Long Island real quick. Oops. So New York just sweeps across the border. Across New England's only border, aside from Canada. NATO doesn't get involved because, once again, New York is the aggressor. Eventually, New York launches a spearhead toward Boston, which is around here, and the country quickly surrenders. So now pardon the voice crack. Now let's look into the peace treaty. If we look at the peace treaty, New York has fully annexed Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island as states. Of course, New Jersey applied to join the U.S. Well, half of them did. The other half applied to join New York. They're going to leave that decision up to a referendum. Out of all New Jerseyans who voted, 47% voted in favor of New York. 49% voted in favor of the U.S. And the remaining 4% abstained for voting or voted for independence. And eventually, after every member of NATO votes on it, New Jersey is allowed to join the Union. The ATC realizes they are too weak on their own, and they have to join a stronger alliance, like NATO. So all four of them apply for membership. All members of NATO approve these for application. And so the ATC was no more. Right, there we go. So, quick overview. Ohio and Michigan still have beef. Michigan and Wisconsin still have beef. New York is on thin ice because New England really didn't do anything. The US, Florida, and Texas all have beef that has turned into a Cold War over domination of not just the South, but the entire middle of North America. There may or may not be any purpose to a Four Corners Union anymore, given how they're almost entirely surrounded by NATO. Half of them are in NATO. Which now almost covers the middle part of North America, coast to coast. Hawaii wants nothing to do with any of it. These two alliances have no beef whatsoever. Pennsylvania's kind of getting nervous. And the US, Texas, and Florida are looking to do some not so nice things to countries not aligned to them. And all three of these countries are going to commit some human rights abuses in the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching. We only have 4 to go. I'll see you next time.